Welcome to HappyPorch Radio, the circular economy technology podcast, where, together with leading experts, thinkers, and doers, we explore the intersection of technology and the circular economy.
I'm Barry, the founder of HappyPorch, where we provide software engineering expertise for a more circular economy.
And my name is Tandi, and I've been working in fashion and technology for nearly 20 years. I help brands create circular business models that generate additional revenue from existing products while reducing their environmental impact.
In this episode, we're joined by Anna Smoothy and Anders Bergenstrand of Cirkel Supply. Cirkel is a premium skiwear rental, and they deliver directly to your accommodation for those infrequent skiers. I really enjoyed this conversation, partly because of the energy and fun that Anna and Anders always bring to the conversation. Tandi, was there anything that stood out for you?
I think one of the great things that both Anders and Anna highlighted was how important it is to have a network of people to whom you can reach out and get expert advice, and that it's not always about being able to see the end goal from the beginning, but kind of taking a first step and then maybe a next step and sort of building progress that way.
Definitely. I think that's one of the recurring themes that we're seeing across this whole season. And connected to that, what stood out for me was Anna talked very eloquently about their approach to partnerships, the way how important it is to work with the accommodation or resorts or other tourism operators to make it easy, one, for those businesses, but also then to make the experience for their guests as positive as possible. And then we also talked about the other partnerships they have with their technology providers and the fulfillment and the delivery and how crucial that whole network, as you said, really is to the success of their business. As I said, Anna and Anders are two of my favorite people. They've got so much energy. It's always a laugh and fun to talk with them. So I hope you enjoy this episode as much as we did.
Hi, I'm Anders. I'm one of the founders behind Cirkel Supply. And in a nutshell, we offer skiers who don't ski often enough to justify purchasing their equipment the opportunity to rent rather than buy their ski clothing.
And I'm Anna. I'm working with Anders at Cirkel Supply. And as mentioned, we really focus on making ski clothing rental really high quality and super convenient for ski tourists. So imagine you're going to the Swiss Alps and you only ski for 1 week a year. So you just hop onto our website, choose your favorite outfit from lots of different premium brands. It just takes a couple of clicks to order it, and then you can travel out as light as a feather, knowing that your outfit is going to be waiting at your accommodation as you arrive.
Brilliant and lovely to have you both here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So let's learn a little bit more about the background to what led you to starting Cirkel Supply and a little taster of what you mean by working with the resort or the venue so that the stuff is there when you get there.
Long story short, my background is from the fashion industry, where I worked my whole professional career. And I guess this goes back now, I don't know, what is it, 8, 9, maybe even more so years, when circular business models started to grow a bit within the fashion industry. I was very inspired looking at this. Fast forward to where we are today, I think looking at how circular business models grew, especially we all seen the boom in resale now, and then we saw some companies starting to make their first ins into rental. And it certainly makes sense. But I think also looking at the model and looking at the type of product that they were renting out and the challenges that many were facing in terms of operations and really making it profitable. And you could also argue from an environmental perspective that fashion rental is maybe not the best solution. That led us to do what we do here today, where we're focusing on renting out ski clothing. We rent out items which are very durable, meaning you can rent them out many times. They are expensive and people don't use them often in many cases. So it's a perfect product to be renting out. From an environmental perspective, I mean, it goes without saying, if it's just going to hang in your wardrobe for 51 weeks a year, you might as well just rent it.
I think that's super. And to add to how we ensure that it's a really convenient service, when we started here in Verbier for, Christmas 2022, we had a handful of hotel partners and chalet companies that we partnered with who would promote our service to their guests before they came out. And this turned to be a very effective customer funnel, just getting people as they're planning their trip. So then they're referred over to our site and they choose their favorite ski jacket and ski pants and whatever accessories they want to go with it. And then we are also working with those partners to make sure that we can deliver before the guest arrives, because we see that they don't want to be queuing in store to pick up a package. So for it to be ready and waiting, sitting on the end of their bed as they arrive is just this really frictionless customer experience.
I think if I can add, and I'm going to say this as a little bit of a segue back to Anna so she can tell her about her background and how she came to join me here at Cirkel. The foundation of the company is really, I think, and this is what I share with Anna, obviously a passion for the outdoors, but also desire to change how we consume things today and change consumer behaviors. And we're definitely coming from an environmental perspective. And we combine that with the possibility of building a business and having a business model that is very profitable and where there is also from a financial perspective a huge opportunity to create something great. And I think I mentioned it very briefly when you look at fashion rental. We can discuss this later. For some people, it might be a bit of a sensitive topic, but done right, I think that fashion rental can also be great for the environment. Done wrong, you're just fueling more consumption. And when we started, it was very important for us to secure that is this something that's actually good for the environment? What we're trying to achieve here is it bringing something positive? And that's where Anna came into the picture here a few years ago.
So I'm from the deep south of New Zealand, and I grew up with a really outdoors family and was a competitive freeride skier. So that's actually how I arrived in Europe, was competing on the Freeride World Qualifying Tour. And when I began to hang up my boots from competitive skiing, I was working for different ski brands and outdoor brands. And this was awesome. Really excited to help people get outside with amazing products. And these brands were engaged in lowering the impact of their products. But at the end of the day, they were just selling more and more products to more people. That was the goal. I decided to go back and do an MBA focused on circularity and sustainability in the outdoor space. And I was over here back in Europe looking for a company to collaborate with for my final MBA project, which was looking at circularity and sustainability in outdoors, just as Anders was about to do a little test with Cirkel Supply. So we teamed up and I focused my final project on this with an extended business model lifecycle assessment, where we compared rental to sales by building in all the inputs like the production of the garment to delivering it. And you imagine that laundry, you need to do more deliveries and more laundry than in a normal linear case. So you build all of this in, and that really confirmed that we do have a strong environmental case simply by serving more people with less products. And that's how I joined up, because we did this project together, enjoyed working together. And my goodness, like seeing the use case in this specific instance where you've got a really durable product that's really expensive and it's used so infrequently, it just made so much sense to me. So I joined in an official capacity as a co-founder for the big launch that following winter.
I was going to ask a little bit more. You both mentioned sort of the impact of rental. Anders, you talked a little bit about doing it. Maybe there's one way you can do it where you have less impact, and maybe another way you can do it where you're not having such a positive environmental impact. And I was wondering if you guys could talk a little bit more about that in terms of the customers that you're servicing and how you're helping them to reduce their environmental impact through your service.
Yep. Hop in as you wish, Anders, but the customers that we're serving are really by definition infrequent skiers. What we mean by this is that they're skiing less than, 10 days or so a year. And we understand, looking at the ski industry more broadly, that this is actually most skiers, which is news to me. I was on skis from 2 years old and have been skiing several days a week for my whole life. And Anders too, since he moved down to the Alps. Yes, it was great to see that with rental, if it's something that's used infrequently, that's a really good match. And I think what Anders was alluding to with fashion rental is that if it's an everyday item, short-term rental might not be the right solution. Maybe you should look to more like a monthly subscription or a different model. So for us, we saw that serving international ski tourists for their one annual ski trip a year was like a perfect match.
And so the offer to them is not just this idea of being less negative or more positively from an environmental and circularity point of view, but you also then describe the pleasant experience, the good user experience. I don't have to remember to pack the thing. I don't have to store it for the rest of the time. I don't have to buy it or keep up to date with. I can just get the right thing at the right size for the place I am, for the trip I'm on, and then return it without any more hassle. I'm assuming that's my take on the pitch.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we've described now where we're coming from and the foundation of the company, what we want to achieve. But I think the harsh reality is that talking about sustainability and doesn't really change consumer behaviors. We all care about the environment, and it's certainly growing. I hope, at least I like to think so. But we don't care enough about the environment maybe to change our consumer behaviors. That's just the truth. I've listened to a few of your previous guests you had, and I think everyone keeps saying this, but it just takes so much more than just the environmental initiative to make it, should we call it a circular choice? And in our case, and what we see is that most of our customers, they use our service because of the convenience factor. There's certainly a financial incentive as well. It's cheaper to rent than to buy something that you're just going to use a few times, of course. But it's really the convenience that's driving our business.
Yeah, I would back that up by saying when we look at where lots of our deliveries are to, it's to 5-star hotels, luxury accommodation providers, which for me is great in one way because more wealthy people are higher emitters. So if we're helping them not purchase several outfits that they wear and then throw in the bin, that's fantastic. But of course, I would love to use our service to help people with less money get outdoors as well. And that's a goal as well. But it certainly shows that we have quite an affluent customer at this point.
That's a nice segue into the other aspect that I'm interested in is the seasonal nature, or I guess the variable nature of ski seasons. And how does that impact your business? Is that a big challenge? How does that seasonal, is it a strength, being able to say there's periods when we're busy and periods when we can strategize? How does that look for you across the year?
Certainly as a small startup with a lean team, the seasonality can be a plus in the way that during the winter, we're very hands-on, we're picking and packing packages and getting them out the door, but there's not a lot of time for business development. And through the summer months and the off-season, we have a chance as a small team to really focus on moving the business forward in terms of partnerships, tech development, and all these different things that we don't manage to have a lot of time for during our on-season. But of course, then the negative side is that we don't have a consistent monthly revenue that we can show.
Yeah, I second that. I think one of the challenges that we've experienced is that what also comes with the seasonality is that you get a chance to develop things and test things, right? And then you can learn from that winter season, and then you can build on those learnings. And of course, you develop things and come up with new ideas and new ways to approach the market. And then you get a new chance to do this for the upcoming winter. But you don't have this constant kind of testing and analyzing and going back to the drawing board and then testing again that you would have as a normal startup, I would say. So that certainly brings a few challenges, but nothing that can't be solved.
I love that. I love those sorts of things because to me, going back to what you were saying about the mission, like running a startup is an incredibly difficult thing to do. Running a startup that's really mission driven and where you're placing that higher additional aims or additional pressures in terms of environmental benefits is an extra piece of work. As you said, several of our guests have talked about that extra challenge. But then in addition, I was interested in the seasonality aspect as well. So thanks for sharing that. You mentioned the tech there, Anna. Now, obviously, from our point of view, that's an area that we're particularly interested in. So you can tell us a little bit about, as you said, it's a small, lean team. What does the tech stack look like, both customer facing and how you operate?
So we launched our first season with a more simple tech stack and website. And then towards the end of winter 23-24, we had decided that we would make some significant advancements with our user journey and our whole website. So we were actually looking for a CTO. And then I think we got a very cheeky message from Ryan Atkins at Supercycle, who replied to our CTO ad saying, "What are you idiots doing? If you just use Supercycle, then you're not going to need to hire a CTO." So this certainly caught our attention. We had a conversation or two with that team before deciding the direction and the kind of strategy behind our technology. So Anders, I don't know if you want to fill in the gaps there about how our whole setup is and also the touch points we've had with HappyPorch.
Yeah. To Ryan's defense, I must say, he didn't really write exactly like that, but the message was something in those lines. And it's true. I think it's really interesting because it's so much that happened so quickly in the last few years. Just to see what you have as possibilities now from a tech point of view when it comes to any kind of circular business model that you had just a few years is amazing. I think this is what Anna tells is like a short version of what we've experienced from going from, okay, let's roll out an MVP with whatever was available at that point, then seeing like all the needs we had and the challenges that we tried to solve, and it wasn't just possible with the kind of tech stack that we had when launching the business. And then deciding to say, okay, we have to build this ourselves, which was, of course, like a big, quite scary decision, but also acknowledging that, all right, there's just nothing on the market. And obviously we weren't really right. There was something on the market that we could use. And we quickly there It was like over a few weeks period, really, that we shifted the whole company from a build to a kind of buy perspective. And that's what we're now on. And that means that we are using Supercycle on a Shopify website. We try to stitch that together with a different other, anything from no-code tools to building our own fulfillment system, etc., that slots into this. And I guess taking an approach where we use just different various solutions out there and stitch them together into something that suits for us. I know you had guests before talking about how everyone's business is different. So even if you work in the space of rental or resale, the way you're approaching it on the customers that you serve will always make it different from the others in the way that you have to tailor your solutions. And I think this is something that we, in one way, all have in common. What really helps, and again, coming back to it, it's amazing to see how things have really evolved. And we're a bit jealous when looking at the UK landscape, for example, because you now have circular landscape where you have the people who can do the operations for you, like ACS, for example, and then you have all the tech tools at hand and could set up a circular business in the UK today, right? It's not that difficult. You have everyone there to support you. It's been a bit different for us here in Switzerland. We didn't have anyone that could help us with operations. So from the very start, we had to build out the operations ourselves. And that has been a very tough learning, anything from the logistics to getting things sent out to the reverse logistics of taking it back, etc. It's been a great learning. I think the positive side of that is that we've been very hands-on. We can sit both on the customer service side of things and talk directly to the customer while also making sure that we pack the packages and trace all the shipments firsthand, etc. So even if it creates a bit of a different complexity to the business, I think it's also really helped us to understand customer needs and to improve our whole logistics. That was a long answer to your question, but yeah.
I was just on that point about having implemented this technology and the needs that it filled for you guys. I'm wondering, how did it help with then the growth of the company to be able to, as you said, find a technology that actually addressed those needs?
Good question. I think it just makes you more agile, right? When you can utilize existing solutions and then stitch them together in a way that it suits you. Also, there's certainly a financial aspect here. It helps you to move faster. I think the approach we've taken now, basically, in other words, it frees up cash that we can use to build a business, be it marketing or build out a team, etc., instead of investing into tech. I know I'm, again, paraphrasing previous guests you had, but I think acknowledging that, looking at and my own background, we're not coming from tech, so that is a big hat to wear. And I think if we taken an approach here where we try to build a team and build out our own solution, it's very unlikely that we will be able to run faster than the experts which are out there. So instead, we focus on what we're doing really good and instead utilize the stuff that's getting built.
So it sounds like it helps you with just keeping lean.
Absolutely. Lean and moving quicker, I would say. And then utilizing help from experts like yourself.
I'd like to come back to that partnership thing and there, but I also don't want to, exactly like you were sharing the challenges with the mission and the way that's viewed by the customers and the relationships you have. Technology is never perfect. Here's the magic solution. Everything works out of the box. Isn't it wonderful? There's always problems and challenges and stuff as well. I'm interested in reflecting over the last couple of years and the lessons you've learned, maybe what you would do differently, particularly thinking about the way you've used the technology to help the business succeed.
We've spent a lot of time and resource from people who are not, I guess, tech people to try and understand which direction to attack the problem in before we've ended up with this pretty amazing network of experts like Barry that are very much native to this and native to the circular applications of technology. So perhaps focusing on forging those connections sooner, but also you have to learn your own way. So maybe those are all lessons that we had to go through. And as always, I think you want the perfect solution, but it's not always, your use case is going to be unique in some way. Tailoring the perfect solution is a bit of a utopia that might not be practical. So learning to live with things that are somewhat painful in order just to run faster, and waiting till you have the volumes that it becomes too painful maybe is a good recommendation to our former selves.
Yeah. I'm thinking back to the very early days when we launched our absolute first MVP and shipped out our first order, etc. And I think especially in the first 1-2 years, we had a lot of people supporting us who maybe didn't really fully understand what we tried to do, didn't understand circular business models, came from the linear world, if we would call it that way. And maybe with the realization in the last few years that it's so helpful when you talk to people who really understand what you want to do and understand the challenges that you're facing when you're running a circular business model, because it brings a whole different perspective on things, right? Just the fact we always keep talking about reverse logistics and the challenges that comes with it, but it's an animal on its own, isn't it? And I think it's not really a lesson learned, but I think we've just been better at navigating throughout the years, where we seek support to the people we have around us in our network that help us to build things, and you kind of find your ways, if that makes sense.
It makes complete sense. And when I said startups are hard and then starting a circular business is harder, I find it really impressive. It's quite impressive what you're doing to go from scratch over a few years and really building and learning and building from scratch. And not just your business, but every circular business, because we are still trying to create or prove. It's not, here's the blueprint, just do this and give it your own spin. It's come up with a blueprint as you go. So it's an incredibly challenging thing to do. And so I think your answer really articulated that well. I wanted to as well to go back and to what you were saying, Anna, about just the lean team, and in the busy period, you're literally there packing things up. And I know you had a little van that you were literally doing deliveries yourself in the local area. I saw a post on LinkedIn recently where you mentioned delivering to a kebab shop. So I'm interested in any stories which just show the real sort of everybody hands to the wheel kind of stories about that you just need to do to make it work.
I'll hand over to you, Anna, and I'll start with a little backstory about before we even launched Cirkel, where we were coming from, because we mentioned this before, how we're driving, let's call it an environmental consumer choice through convenience and service. We always talk about kind of 3 USPs with our service here: accessibility. It's cheaper to actually rent something than to buy it. And then we talk about convenience and then sustainability as almost being a little bit of a side effect from it. But when we looked at this and looked at the ones that had trialed rental services, especially within the outdoor space, similar to what we were trying to set up and trying to understand why it hadn't really worked, we quickly identified that the convenience aspect of it was really a big threshold. And that would be the reason why you wouldn't use the service, being that you had to go and pick it up from your local outdoor store. So even if you live in quite close proximity, just doing that kind of, be it 20 minutes or 30 minutes to the store to pick something up, to rent it, to then use it, to then getting it back to the store again, even if it sounds silly, it just created that threshold that you wouldn't really use the service. And instead you would just say, oh, it's just easier, I'll buy it and then keep it and I'll use it again. So when we started Cirkel, it was really with this approach that, okay, how can we do it as convenient as possible? And being as convenient as possible is making sure that from a customer perspective, there should be as little effort as possible.
From looking at the extended lifecycle assessment that we did, delivery is our biggest impact. So we looked at different ways that we can minimize that. Here in the ski resort, we're right next to the ski resort of Verbier. It's 2 minutes for me to walk to the gondola, 8 minutes to take the gondola up, and then most of the hotels are within a few minutes walk of there. So that's actually faster than driving it up. We would only take the little panda to do deliveries when it's more like a huge group order. And we do obviously try to bundle all the local deliveries as we can. In terms of shipping across Switzerland, this information about the environmental impact of delivery led us to partner with a really cool local provider that uses train transportation in between hubs. And then in the last mile of most of our big resorts, they're using EVs. So that was a really cool one. And yes, we have delivered to a kebab shop. We delivered directly to the hotel or to an accommodation provider that has like a reception where there's a staff member that can safely receive your package. Because the last thing that we'd want to do is leave it sitting on a doorstep and have anyone worried about, is my clothing actually going to be there? They've probably invested thousands in their holiday, and the last piece of the puzzle is the clothing that they need to dress in to go skiing. So if it's not there, it's not just the cost of the ski clothing rental, it's like the cost of their holiday because they can't go out. Delivering with reliability is number one, and we've absolutely smashed it on that topic. And so, yeah, when someone is staying at an Airbnb or a rented apartment where there isn't a receptionist that will receive the package before the guest arrives, then we typically deliver to a local Swiss Post and sometimes Swiss Post affiliates. And these are sometimes in funny places. So we did once deliver to a Swiss Post affiliate inside a kebab shop, which we all thought was so exciting. And the customer confirmed that his outfit smelled very fresh.
Oh, that's hilarious. I'm just imagining going to pick up my ski stuff and say, oh, I'll just get a kebab with MP.
extra convenient.
That's very
Love it. Hot sauce.
It might be a new partnership in the making then.
So we've touched several times in the conversation there about partnership, both with the hotels and the venues. You talked about your fulfillment and the delivery process and the technology. Obviously, that has got to be a core part of the way you approach the business. Can you talk a little bit about what that looks like and where it's been really successful for you?
I would say this is a bit baked in from day one. I'm not Swedish, but Anders is. And a word that we have always talked about from the beginning is busier. And it's a Swedish word that kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, Anders, translates as generous and kind. And I feel that as Cirkel Supply has been launched, we've had so much busier energy from the first brands that supported us or the hoteliers that believed that their guests might value this service. So we've received a lot of generosity and kindness. And I think really when you're approaching something that's new, I feel that the hard, cold world of capitalism and competitive edge, I don't know if that serves you so well. So generally the approach that we've had has been to partner with people, share ideas, I guess just a sharing and more generous approach to it. So we've certainly had great partnerships with the brands we work with. From the tourism partnerships that help us find and serve customers. That's anything from hotels to travel agencies to ski rental stores that really want to offer ski clothing, but they don't have the ability to process it. Yeah. So lots of different operators.
That's been growing quite organically, that we partner up with more and more ski rental shops. Could definitely be added to that.
Definitely. Ski rental shops has becoming an increasing kind of high frequency of partnerships for us because they make their money with ski and boot rental and make really great margins on it. Lots of their customers need ski clothing and they don't want to buy it because, again, they're just going to use it for a week and then not use it again. But the ski rental stores don't really have the bandwidth in this one store to offer the kind of choice, size sets, covering all ages and things like that to offer something that's actually attractive to the customer. It's the assortment that they struggle with. It's the cleaning and processing of it. So for them to be able to partner with Cirkel and, you know, we provide the service so they don't lose the customers that need it, but they don't have to touch it. That's been working really well. And essentially, our partnerships are quite flexible. It's more about meeting the partner and seeing what space are they operating in, who do they serve, what are their processes. And we typically have a little blueprint that slots in with that so that their customers can be informed about our service in advance and that we slot in with their daily processes in terms of delivery and return. So it's no added effort on anyone's side. It's just easy breezy and improves their guest experience.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that sounds like a real strength, or that is a real strength, rather than the sort of rather childish view of we got to win and beat everything and protect our own little patch, but build it together, especially in circularity.
Yeah, definitely. Some of our brands have their own rental channels in other territories, and we're all about sharing information, trying to improve the clothing rental experience in the industry because we can't change the whole world by ourselves. We're not going to ensure that all of the infrequent skiers in the world are going to rent ski clothing. We need other people to have also good offerings so that a rising tide lifts all ships.
I was just going to ask, what feedback have you had then from partners, for example, hotels or brands, about, I guess, what they hear from customers or any value that they get out of being in partnership with you?
So in terms of our hotel partners and other tourism partners, it's really just the improvement to their guest experience. If you have a quick read through our Google reviews, you'll see that most people are like, wow, I can't believe this exists. It's so convenient, saved me money. The size guide was awesome. We've addressed all of these bugbears within consuming ski clothing just to make it so much easier, and they're quite surprised and delighted by it. So that certainly passes on to the tourism partner, and their big concern is like, our staff are busy. We don't have time to deal with like extra work. So actually the easiest partnerships for me to make is when it's not an official partner, but someone's found us on Google, and then I call the hotel, arrange the delivery, and then the hoteliers see how delighted the customer is and how easy it is for the staff. E.g., they literally just take the package, put it aside, put it on the hotel room if they have that level of service. Otherwise, hand it over at reception, and that's it. And so if you speak to a hotelier who's had that experience, it's really easy to make them an official partner.
So That's all incredibly exciting. And we've talked a lot about the story and the journey you've been through to get to this point. What does the future look like? What are you excited about for the next stage in the journey? And where would you like to be in the future?
We have, I guess, lots of exciting plans cooking. From speaking to our current customer base, who do come from all over the world, but we're just serving them within Switzerland, we understand that they don't just ski here. So next year they might be going to France or maybe Austria or even North America somewhere. So we certainly understand that our customers want us to be available in more than just Switzerland. So we're really working through plans on that side of making ourselves more available wherever ski tourists are skiing. So that's the big plan at the moment. Certainly developments to the experience, what kind of products we're offering, that's cooking in the background as well. What else would you add to that, Anders?
I think that sums it up really well. When we talk about this, and I think we already from the start knew that there was a big opportunity. And I mentioned earlier that there's a very large chunk of skiers out there in the world and they ski infrequently. The numbers that we talk about is that we have around about 75 million people who fall into this category on a global level. That's obviously huge. That means that both from a business perspective, we have an opportunity to build something really impressive here. And from an environmental perspective, we have an opportunity to make sure that we affect a lot of consumer choices out there, really reduce the impact of outdoor sports. I mean, and this is super exciting. And of course, this goes way beyond the Swiss borders. So this is how we look at it today. Also, maybe naming fashion rental, it's really amazed to see how quick both resale within the fashion industry and also within the outdoor industry, and then rental within the fashion industry is growing. It's growing so quickly. And it certainly helps to pave the way for all types of circular solutions. And we always talk about fashion rental in that way. As a potential customer to Cirkel, you might have been introduced to circularity from your fashion rental opportunity in the country where you live today.
Yeah, and which harks back to what you were saying before, Anna, about raising the sort of working together to increase the circular pie, if you like. And we're definitely seeing that with the growth of the technology platforms and providers, is that even a few years ago, there was only a few, and now having a few more is increasing both the service and the availability of these platforms and the feature set, but also I think allowing people or brands or retailers, merchants who struggle with circularity now, there are places where they can go that a large chunk of those problems are solved. It makes it easier to explore that. So hopefully that's a really positive way to finish, an exciting vision for the future of Cirkel Supply. And for those listening who want to check you out and learn a little bit more about the business, where should they go?
Of course, our website, maybe you should spell it out because it's Cirkel is spelled a Swedish way. So that's CIRKEL, supply.com. And then our social channels, we're more active on Instagram and LinkedIn. We're also on Facebook. So please come and say hello on any of those channels.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And as usual, we'll share all those links on the show notes and on the episode page on HappyPorchRadio.com. Thank you, Anders. Thank you, Anna. Really appreciate you joining us today.
Thanks so much for having us. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much. It's been great.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoy and benefit from these conversations, please help us share with others. Just take a moment to rate and review on your favorite podcast app. Thank you.
This podcast is brought to you by HappyPorch.com. Whether you need bespoke software development, fractional CTO support, or just expert advice, HappyPorch is here to support your circular economy initiatives. If you're driving innovation and circularity, we'd love to chat. Your hosts were Barry O'Kane and Tandi Tuakli. Barry is a software engineer, leader, and entrepreneur with over 20 years' experience. He founded HappyPorch to help you create web and software solutions that support the shift to a regenerative circular economy. Tandi is a circular expert with over 15 years working in the fashion industry. She is passionate about collaborating with brands to create circular programs that reduce waste, drive revenue, and strengthen customer loyalty.